Here's a topic from a recent episode of The Insiders.
We'll
Yeah.
start with Texas first. What Texas brings to the table, let's just be honest, it's a lot. We don't have to like it, but it's a lot. Number one, it brings a lot of eyeballs to the screen, to the conference. They have a ton of sports, a ton of money, and for the most part, they're pretty successful. Now, national championship successful depends on the sport, but
Right.
in the two major ones that we're talking about, yeah, they haven't been. But for Texas, for them to leave, look, we can't deny it. It's a big hole in the Big 12, isn't it, Fitz?
It is. And let's be really honest up front. No, Texas can't be replaced because that Texas brand is massive
Yeah.
and maybe only matched by Notre Dame in historical like size and girth. It's just amazing how many fans are Texas fans.
Right.
Now, the other side of that, Big B, as you know, is they're not always as invested as other fans. They just kind of compensate with a lot of them.
Right.
And it does lead to better TV ratings often, and kind of has also the Notre Dame effect where non-fans watch to see them lose.
Right.
So Texas is one of the cornerstones of college athletics in terms of viewership, just having prestige, even if it
Right.
doesn't come with a bunch of national titles. Yeah, they've done it in football, within this century, but um Texas is also in many sports, not all, they dominate some other sports, an underachiever. And they always have been. But the difference is right now is I think Steve Sarkisian has woken them up in football, and I think they're
Mhm.
going to be a national player in the future. They were last year, but I think even more so this year. So the straight up answer is no, you cannot replace Texas unless you would get Notre Dame, which is not happening.
Right.
So you have to kind of do it by, you know, committee. You got to bring in a collection of schools that will bring up the average ratings of the viewership and not some schools that'll just drive them down.
Right. Well, my thing with Texas, look, the I think over the big infusion has really come over the last 20-25 years or so. Texas was always a big name, but you looked at Texas and you thought, okay, yeah, they're good in football, but they're not nationally
Yeah.
good in football. Like they're around and people know about them, but it's like they weren't a big time player on the national stage. I know people in Texas are going to think, "Oh, you're crazy." I go, "But if you're being honest with yourself, they weren't." I mean, I
No.
lived in a part of the country where I grew up and I knew who Texas was, but Texas wasn't a big deal. Why? Because they literally weren't a big deal. It's been over the last 25 years, which again, that's where college athletics has kind of taken off and the money has grown so much over that time period. And there's one thing that I can say, nobody has more money than Texas. They just don't.
Right.
There's a couple of athletic programs that might be up there and capable of competing, but nobody has as much money as what Texas does.
Right.
And that notoriety, number one, that gets you a lot. When you have the most money, that you're capable of getting a lot, and Texas has a lot.
Yep.
If we
They
just
do.
break it down to football and basketball and we keep it there, as far as football is concerned, nobody's going to have the things that Texas had. They're not going to have better, should I say.
Right.
People are capable because, again, there's only so much that you can build in a complex. There's only so much that you can put in there, Fitz. There's only so many people that you can put in the stadium. Well, Texas has all of that,
Yep.
so nobody's going to have better facilities than Texas because if something comes out and it happens to be better, all they're going to do is raise the money and go build it just as good as somebody else. So, and as far as the conference is concerned, yeah, I think that you're right. There's a hole. It can't be, you're not going to be able to replace them. I don't even think you can replace them even with the number of teams. But what you can do is the competition. If
Right.
the competition on the field and on the court can match what Texas does, that can eliminate some of the prestige or the branding issues that you're going to have with them leaving.
Yep. You're right. You're right. And this conference has always been about being chaotic and on the field, and it's always an open game.
Right.
And there was never a reason for it to be that way in football. Yeah, Oklahoma went for their period where they absolutely dominated. But let's remember in the early years of the Big 12, that wasn't true.
Correct.
Until they found the name Stoops. They were really struggling for a while, and now Texas seems to have found their way. But um, as a whole, you just have to kind of start rowing together. Y- Texas, when you talk about on the field, may not be replaceable, but as a partner, yeah, they are. And uh, I always have this somewhat sexist analogy that they're the trophy wife. That it was fun walking into the restaurants with her, but once she decides she wants a divorce, you're like, oh, thank God. You know, let's go find someone better to spend time with.
Right.
And now I mean this in all sincerity, and it's not just a shot. SEC, they're your problem now.
Right.
And they're a problem. And because they're going to be a bigger problem for you because they won't be able to get their way. They won't be able to load the conference with votes. They won't be able to tell the
No.
commissioner what to do.
No.
Now you get to deal with them, and it's not always easy. But the question is it worth it? And the answer typically is yes, but when it's over, it's like, okay, it's time to move on. Thank God.
Right. So with Texas gone, I guess the question is, and again, let's just keep it on the field and the court as far as the place of competition. Texas has found their way in football for sure. Basketball has kind of been a little bit of a different story. Texas has been fairly good, but they haven't really been able to get over that hump per
Yeah.
se. I was a person that said last year they had one of the most talented rosters in the country, and they did. I mean, and then you get into the NCAA tournament, and first of all, they struggled. They underachieved all year long last year. And then they get into the NCAA tournament, and it's like they flipped the switch, Fitz, and they figured out, you know what? We have really talented guys. Now, they didn't make the Final Four or anything like that. They ran into a team that happened to be better than them, but Texas was good. I think them going to the SEC is going to be a good thing. Can the Big 12 replace that? Now, on the football side, I know we're talking branding and stuff.
Yeah.
On the football side, irreplaceable. Just can't do it. On the basketball side, I think they can be replaced,
Oh,
Fitz.
absolutely. The brand does carry over to basketball, but you're right. It's primarily a football brand.
Right.
And they just haven't been known for basketball. But again, that's Texas. They just kind of cruise. We got the great players. We're just not going to, really try as hard as everyone else. We don't need to. We're wealthy.
Right.
But yeah, that can be replaced easily in basketball. I think Houston's done it in terms of national power. They don't necessarily bring the local viewership, but now in comes Arizona. And I think that certainly replaces any lost brands in basketball, if there are some. Oklahoma's not one particularly, at least recently. I think Arizona overwhelms that entire area. And Big B, this brings us back to Brett Yormark's basketball play.
Right.
And this discussion emphasizes why he wants to lean into basketball because you can't replace the football brands.
Nope.
There is literally nothing the Big 12 can do to go grab two schools, again, Notre Dame's not coming, that will balance out what you lose on the football field. But
Right.
basketball, you can get an Arizona. You can get a UConn in the future if you want it. You can go into the ACC and maybe get some schools that will bring that. And you also have the whole layer of possible basketball only, or I should say non football expansion with a group of teams such as Gonzaga and Villanova. I mean, that's why he's leaning into it because what you might lose in the football branding, brother, you can build it right back up and be something unmatched and unmatchable in basketball.